Well, hey, this is Dr. Glenn Livingston with RocketClicks.com. And if you're on this webinar, then you would like to know what a pay-per-click management firm knows about Google Quality Score. And that's exactly what we're here to talk to you about. I've got Rob Soretsky and Jared Klima and Lorraine Haft. Rob is the director of our pay-per-click department, which is 9 people strong right now, plus 4 interns, and I believe we've seen over 100 accounts. I'm not positive, but I'm actively managing thereabouts. In the trenches, day after day, each of our team members has a particular specialty, and I'll let Rob talk to you about that in a second. And there are 8 things. We kind of boiled this down to 8 things that we think any AdWords advertiser really needs to know about quality score. And in addition to our own experience, running AdWords accounts, we also have access to representatives fairly high up in Google who advise us and give us assistance. So we think this is worth paying attention to. So I'll largely be your interviewer today. And I have to admit that at this point, as good as I am or have been at AdWords, I really think that this team knows more than I do. Certainly have more experience when you're spending 5 days a week, as many hours a day as they do. So Rob, could you do the honors of just kind of walking through who's on the phone and what their specialty is and how that's going to play into the webinar today?
Sure thing, Glenn. So I'm Rob Soretsky, and I'm the director of paid search. One of my personal interests is actually quality score and seeing how the different factors involved in quality score play out inside of campaigns, and I've done a lot of research on that. Jared Klima is a senior manager here, and he deals with some of our largest accounts, including Jeff Hughes, our other founders' personal accounts. He is a master at the content network, including the quality score as it appears there, and has a lot of experience with really a wide variety of accounts. And Jared's on the phone now. And Lorraine Haft is also on the phone, and she is a manager here, and she is our special liaison to Google in regards to quality score. And we funnel our questions through her most of the time for quality score when we want clarification. So it's good people to talk to about quality score.
I am very eager to hear what you all have to say. My audience might recognize Jared as the Content Network exorcist. There's an audio that they should hear at contentnetworkcurse.com if they haven't downloaded that already. And with that, why don't we get started? You want to
Sure thing.
advance the presentation and walk us through?
Yeah. So the first surprising revelation that we want to get across to people is that click-through rate is in fact the biggest component in quality score. There's a question that's sort of out there because everyone knows that click-through rate is important and that it factors into quality score, but just how much, that's the real question that kind of lingers out there, because no one really knows what's really going on inside of the specific algorithms that Google uses for quality score. But one thing that really hits us is that click-through rate is really clearly the leading indicator. Google, as I wrote here on the slides, they use user feedback in the form of clicks as the key driver to deciding what ads make it and don't make it and which ads should be on their network. The click-through rate is really the biggest part of the quality score formula. And if anyone doubts that, they should take a look at Helvarian's video on YouTube. Helvarian is Google's chief economist and a pretty amazing guy who's recently written up in Wired magazine, and he's talked about how the Google ad auction is an amazing piece of work and how it could be applied to situations like the energy grid or liquidating extra real estate in a down economy, and how the principles behind the auction as Google does it would really benefit the world if it was applied on a grander scale.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's neat stuff.
Rob, can I jump in for a second?
Sure.
I just wanted to talk about algorithms for a second and why this might be murky, and tell me if you're tracking along with me. I think that when Google first introduced the quality score, or the Google SLAP, what happened was people who had very reasonable bid prices all of a sudden couldn't afford to advertise on Google. And so if people think that the landing page, people might think that the landing page is 65 or 70% of the score, but what I'm getting at is it's not necessarily that there's a whole bunch of factors and each one of them adds up to the overall quality score. It could be that there are some factors which on a grand scale are only 5% of the score, but if you get a red flag on that factor, you go way, your score goes way up and your score goes way down and your bids go way up. So, for example, if they see AdSense on your landing page, maybe overall that's only 5%, but if it's AdSense on the landing page and it's a skinny landing page, then maybe that's a red flag. And even if you have a great click-through rate, they'll kill it. So sometimes I wonder if the pie chart isn't, it's easiest to understand, but I wonder if it might not be misleading because the people who've had problems with quality score have been red flagged and and penalized for something that might be a small percentage overall in the algorithm, but if it trips the flag, then you're in trouble. Does that make sense to you intuitively with what you're seeing, or do you think something different?
It makes sense intuitively, and it actually is we've sort of gotten verification from that when we've been talking to Google. Landing page, for instance, that portion of the quality score is very binary. Either you're passing or you're failing. So it may be a small portion, but if you're either kind of getting a 10 or a 0 in that, and if you're getting a 0, it's going to be really hard to to compete.
Okay.
Actually, the way that Google applies that, they actually say specifically that they set it to 0, or they set it so low that the explicit purpose is to drive people out of the auction, not just to hamper them a little bit, but to drive them out. So I think you're right. Little things in the overall picture can be, once they go wrong, can get a disproportionate amount of effect on your quality score.
So what we're saying here is that assuming you have a passable landing page, then click-through rate is really the largest driver of quality overall.
Yes, that would be true.
And of course, we're going to talk more about what makes a passable landing page in a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we wanted to talk about. Yes, Glenn?
No, go ahead.
Well, one of the things that we say a lot when we're talking to people about their accounts is we get questions, should we try this, should we try that? And we say, well, this sounds good to us, and we'll try this ad copy, or we'll try this change on the landing page, or this type of content campaign, but ultimately we have to see if it's going to work. We have to let the marketplace decide. What Google is essentially doing by elevating click-through rate to being the most important part of quality score when things are going relatively smoothly is that they're letting the marketplace decide what's relevant. This really ties in to their sense of don't be evil. That kind of gets paraphrased into be relevant or provide a useful experience. And that useful experience is the whole concept of making things relevant to the user of the Google search engine, and they rate that by people's clicks. And so if you're clicking on an ad, then you must be finding